Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that one of the most powerful habits for success, resilience, and discipline is something you already know how to do, and it takes less than 2 minutes? Would you believe me if I said it could start with nothing more than pulling the covers tight and straightening your pillow? If you want to change your life, start with something simple. Start by making your bed. When you wake up in the morning, your first instinct may be to rush into the day, to check your phone, to think about the meetings, the deadlines, or the countless responsibilities waiting for you. But before all of that, there is an opportunity to do something that takes only a few minutes and yet has the power to set the tone for everything that follows. Making your bed may not seem like a big deal, but in truth, it is the first step in creating momentum. Accomplishment, no matter how small, has a ripple effect. And when you begin the day by completing a task, you signal to yourself that you are capable of achieving more. The act itself is simple: straightening the sheets, adjusting the pillows, smoothing the blanket. It's a ritual that tells your brain the day has begun and that you are already in control of it. That first act of discipline establishes order in a world that is often filled with chaos. When the day gets messy, as it inevitably will, you can look back at the morning and remember that you began with purpose. This may sound insignificant, but psychology teaches us that the human brain thrives on progress. Even the smallest check mark on a to-do list can release a sense of reward, fueling motivation to tackle the next task. Making your bed is the physical embodiment of that check mark. It is visible and is tangible, and it is immediate. Instead of letting the day start with randomness, you take charge of it, and this small sense of victory quietly influences the way you carry yourself into the hours ahead. Imagine two versions of the same morning. In one, you roll out of bed, leave it a mess, and dive headfirst into the stress of the day. Nothing has been accomplished, and subconsciously, you have given yourself permission to continue the pattern of disorder. In the other version, you make your bed. You see a space that looks neat, a task that is complete, and without realizing it, you have already made a choice that favors discipline over laziness. That choice becomes the seed of momentum. One good decision leads to another. You are more likely to eat a decent breakfast, to arrive on time, to approach your work with greater clarity. The opposite is also true. One neglected action can snowball into a day of neglect. Momentum is not about speed, but about direction. The first push is always the hardest, whether it is starting a project, going to the gym, or tackling a difficult conversation. Making your bed gives you that first push. It proves that progress has already begun. It doesn't matter that the act is small. What matters is that you started. Starting creates energy, and energy sustains effort. By the time you leave your room, you are no longer beginning the day from zero. You are already in motion, and motion is what propels you toward larger victories. When you begin your day by completing one small task, it sets off a chain reaction. Success builds on success, and even the smallest victory can lay the foundation for bigger accomplishments. This principle works because the mind interprets progress, no matter the scale, as a signal that you are capable of more. When you make your bed in the morning, you have already told yourself that you can start something and finish it. That sense of completion stays with you, influencing your decisions, your confidence, and your ability to approach larger challenges throughout the day. It becomes easier to tackle the next task and then the one after that, because you have already proven that action leads to results. This is how discipline transforms into momentum. It is rarely the big goals that give us the strength to move forward. Rather, it is the accumulation of small wins that push us in the right direction. Each success reinforces the habit of action, and habits, once ingrained, guide our behavior even when motivation fades. When you build the habit of seeking small victories, you create an upward spiral. That spiral of progress fuels your drive, sharpens your focus, and allows you to take on larger challenges with confidence. Success is not a single moment. It is a pattern of repeated actions, and that pattern begins with the smallest decisions you make at the start of each day. The power of bidding on success can be seen in countless areas of life. A student who begins by simply reviewing notes for 10 minutes often finds the motivation to study for an hour. An athlete who commits to a short workout soon discovers the energy to complete a full training session. A professional answers one difficult email may find themselves completing an entire list of overdue tasks. The principle remains the same: success fuels more success. The first step creates the energy for the second, And before long, what seemed daunting becomes manageable. By the end of the day, these compounded victories can add up to something far greater than what you imagined when you first woke up. What is most important is the recognition that success is not always about grand achievements. It is about consistency. It is about stringing together enough small victories until they accumulate into significant change. Making your bed is a reminder that you don't need to wait for extraordinary opportunities to start building a better version of yourself. You can begin with the smallest act and allow that success to influence the rhythm of your day. When you walk out of your room, knowing you've already succeeded once, you step into the world with a mindset prepared for further achievement. That mindset makes you more resilient, more disciplined, and more willing to face the challenges ahead. Each success gives you the courage to pursue another, and eventually, those seemingly minor moments of victory create the life you aspire to live. Taking pride in the little things is not about being overly concerned with details for their own sake, but about understanding that the way you treat the small tasks in your life reflects the way you approach the bigger ones. When you make your bed in the morning, you are telling yourself that even the most ordinary part of your environment deserves attention and respect. You are affirming that the details matter. This quiet act of care is a reflection of your character, because pride is not only found in achievements that are celebrated by others, but also in the actions that no one else sees. It is easy to put effort into tasks when there is recognition at the end, but true discipline and pride are revealed when you put in the same effort for tasks that may never be acknowledged. When you give effort to the small things, you are training yourself to develop habits, a consistency and thoroughness. If you cut corners in the small areas of life, that mindset will eventually carry over into the bigger areas. But if you hold yourself accountable, even in the smallest details, you build a standard for yourself that carries into everything you do. That kind of standard becomes part of your identity, shaping how you approach relationships, responsibilities, and challenges. Pride in the little things becomes the foundation for excellence in the larger things, because excellence is rarely about a single grand moment, about hundreds of unnoticed decisions that accumulate over time. The discipline of taking pride in the small things also helps create a sense of order in your environment and in your mind. Life is unpredictable and often overwhelming, and there will be moments when circumstances feel far beyond your control. Yet, if you have trained yourself to care about the details you can control, you will find strength in that order. Straightening the corners of your blanket may not solve the world's problems, but it does establish a sense of clarity. It reminds you that even in the midst of uncertainty, you can still bring structure to your own space and your own actions. That clarity then gives you the confidence to face the parts of life that are more chaotic and uncertain. Taking pride in the little things also cultivates gratitude. When you recognize that even the simplest parts of your day deserve care, you begin to see the value in things you once overlooked. You start to view your surroundings differently, no longer as insignificant, but as meaningful pieces of a larger whole. Gratitude grows when you respect the small, because you realize that life itself is made up of those small, ordinary moments strung together. Taking pride in them gives each day a deeper sense of purpose. Ultimately, pride in the little things is not about perfection, but about self-respect. It is about saying that your time, your habits, and your environment are worthy of care. When you hold yourself to that standard, you elevate everything you do, no matter how big or small. Discipline is not something that appears in the face of adversity out of nowhere. It is something that is built over time through repetition and consistency. Every time you commit to a small habit, you are laying a brick in the foundation that will support you when life becomes difficult. Making your bed may not seem like preparation for major challenges, but it is exactly that. The small disciplines you practice daily strengthen your ability to endure when the stakes are high. When setbacks come, as they always do, you will not be relying on willpower alone. You will be leaning on habits that have been built into your character. Life will test you in ways you cannot predict. You may face failure at work, difficulties in relationships, unexpected loss, or circumstances that threaten to overwhelm you. In those moments, you cannot suddenly decide to become strong or disciplined. You will only be able to rely on the strength you have already trained into yourself. The consistency of small actions, repeated day after day, creates resilience. It builds a mindset that says, no matter how hard things get, you can keep moving forward. Something as ordinary as making your bed each morning reinforces this pattern of resilience. It conditions you to begin each day with order, control, and a small act of victory. That conditioning does not disappear when challenges arrive. It becomes the habit that carries you through them. Discipline also sharpens your focus under pressure. When life becomes chaotic, it is easy to lose sight of direction. But a disciplined mind knows how to stay centered. If you have trained yourself to care about the details, to follow through on small commitments, then you are less likely to unravel when larger commitments become difficult. The practice of daily discipline gives you the ability to remain steady when others are panicking. It allows you to look at problems with clarity rather than being consumed by the weight of them. The order you have instilled in small areas of life becomes the anchor in the storm. Another way discipline prepares you for challenges is by strengthening your confidence. Every small act of discipline is proof that you are capable of self-control. That proof builds belief in yourself, and belief is critical when facing obstacles. If you have no history of following through on commitments, doubt will creep in when adversity strikes. But if you have trained yourself through small habits, you will know that you can endure because you already have a track record of doing so. Confidence is not born in the moment of crisis. It is built through hundreds of small, unseen acts of discipline. Most importantly, discipline helps you understand that progress is not always about speed, but persistence. Challenges are often long and draining, and success belongs to those who keep going when it would be easier to stop. The daily act of discipline teaches you to persist even when the task feels minor or repetitive. That persistence is what becomes resilience when life demands more from you than you thought you could give. Completion is a powerful force because it creates closure, order, and confidence. Starting something has value, but finishing it carries a different weight altogether. When you make your bed each morning, you are not just beginning a task, you are finishing it. That act of completion, however small, reinforces the mindset that what you start deserves to be carried through to the end. It is easy to begin projects, set goals, or make promises, but far fewer people develop the discipline to see things through. Training yourself to complete even the smallest task builds the habit of follow through, and that habit extends into the larger responsibilities of life. The human mind craves resolution. An unfinished task lingers, quietly weighing on your thoughts and draining your energy. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks more than those we have finished. Leaving things undone creates stress and a sense of disarray, even if we do not consciously realize it. By practicing the discipline of finishing what you start, you free yourself from that mental burden. Making your bed closes the loop on the first activity of the day. You started it, you ended it, and now your mind is free to move forward with clarity and focus. Completion also builds trust in yourself, and eventually trust from others. When you prove to yourself daily that you can finish tasks, no matter how simple, you build a pattern of reliability. You begin to believe in your own consistency. That belief is essential because when challenges come, you will not question whether you can persevere. You will already know from experience that you have the discipline to finish. Others will also come to see you as someone who does not abandon responsibilities halfway. This reputation for reliability often begins with habits so small that no one else notices them, but over time, those habits define who you are. Finishing what you start also strengthens resilience because it teaches you to push through discomfort. Most tasks, even small ones, have moments when it would be easier to stop or cut corners. Choosing to finish instead of stopping early trains your mind to value perseverance over convenience. That perseverance becomes essential when you face bigger tasks that demand sustained effort. The discipline you build from completing the small things prepares you to endure the long, difficult work required for meaningful goals. Finally, completion provides momentum. Every finished task, no matter the size, becomes proof of progress. That progress is encouraging, and it fuels the desire to take on more. When you make your bed, you have already created one piece of order in your day. That order motivates you to complete the next task, and then the one after that. By the end of the day, you are not left with a list of half-done actions, but with a series of completed steps that move you forward. Each finished act, however small, is a victory that reinforces the mindset of seeing things through, and it is that mindset that transforms both daily routines and long-term goals. There will be days when nothing seems to go right. Days when the meeting falls apart, when the deal fails, when the people you counted on disappoint you, or when life delivers challenges you never anticipated. On those days, it is easy to feel like you have no control, as though everything is slipping through your hands. Yet even in the midst of difficulty, there is comfort in knowing that you have created one place of order, one action of stability, one reminder that you are not powerless. Returning at the end of the day to a bed that you made yourself is a quiet but meaningful form of reassurance. It tells you that while the world may be chaotic, you still have the ability to shape at least one part of your life. That sense of stability is more important than it first appears. Humans naturally look for anchors when the seas of life become rough. We seek something solid to hold on to so that we do not lose ourselves entirely in the storm. The small discipline of making your bed provides that anchor. It is not about the blanket or the sheets, it is about what they represent. They represent order created from disorder, a task completed despite distraction, and a decision made to take control rather than surrender. In times of stress, that symbol of order becomes a source of comfort, reminding you that you still have the strength to make choices and to bring structure into a world that may feel unpredictable. This reminder is not just about physical order, but also about emotional resilience. When you walk into a messy space, the disorder can weigh on you, subtly amplifying stress and frustration. But when you walk into a room where the bed is neatly made, you are met with a sense of calm. That calmness may not erase the struggles of the day, but it does create a pause, a small breath of relief in an otherwise overwhelming time. Sometimes, that pause is exactly what you need to regain perspective, to remember that challenges do not last forever, and to see that you are still capable of controlling your response, even when you cannot control the circumstances. There is also a sense of dignity that comes with this kind of stability. On the hardest days, when you feel beaten down by failure or fatigue, coming back to a bed you made is a reminder that you did not let the day defeat you entirely. You accomplished something at the very beginning, and that accomplishment remains untouched by the struggles that followed. It is a symbol that you can start again tomorrow, no matter how today unfolded. That kind of reminder is powerful because it restores hope. Stability is not about eliminating challenges. It is about creating a foundation strong enough to withstand them. By making your bed, you give yourself a physical and emotional anchor to hold on to when life feels unsteady. That anchor reminds you that control is not found in changing the world all at once, but in mastering the small, deliberate actions that give you strength to face whatever comes. Change is often magic as something dramatic, a single moment when everything shifts and life takes on a new direction. People wait for opportunities, for breakthroughs, for the right time to act, believing that transformation will come in one sweeping motion. But real change rarely happens that way. It is not born from waiting for the extraordinary, but from choosing to be consistent in the ordinary. Making your bed each morning is a perfect example of this truth. It is a small, almost unnoticed act, yet it carries the power to reshape your mindset, your habits, and eventually the course of your life. When you begin with something so simple, you remove the excuses that often prevent change. Too often, people tell themselves they will change when the conditions are right, when they have more time, when the pressure is less, when inspiration strikes. But those conditions rarely arrive. By starting with something small, like straightening your bed, you prove to yourself that change can begin now with what is directly in front of you. You learn that waiting is unnecessary, and that momentum is created not by wishing for the perfect moment, but by acting in the present. This approach also makes change sustainable. Large, overwhelming goals can quickly discourage you because they feel impossible to achieve all at once. Small habits, however, are achievable, and once you commit to them, they build a sense of consistency. That consistency lays the foundation for greater change. Making your bed each morning is not about the task itself, but about the discipline it represents. Over time, the repetition of that habit reinforces the belief that you are capable of being consistent, and consistency is the backbone of transformation. Another benefit of starting small is that it changes the way you see yourself. Each completed habit, no matter how minor, becomes evidence that you are the kind of person who takes action, who follows through, who values order and discipline. This identity shift is far more powerful than chasing fleeting bursts of motivation. Once you begin to see yourself differently, your actions naturally align with that identity. Making your bed becomes more than just a chore. It becomes a daily statement of who you are becoming. That subtle shift in self-image has a profound effect on the choices you make in other areas of your life. Change that begins small also creates ripple effects. A simple action in the morning influences the rest of your day. It sets a tone of discipline, order, and accomplishment that carries over into your work, your relationships, and your goals. That momentum, built one small step at a time, accumulates until it produces results far greater than what you imagined when you first started. The life you want is not created by a single grand act, but by thousands of small, intentional actions that build upon each other day after day. Making your bed is one of those actions, and it proves that the path to change is already within reach. Starting your day by making your bed is not really about the bed at all. It is about what that act represents. It represents the understanding that transformation is not the result of a single grand gesture, but a small, deliberate habits repeated consistently. Many people believe that change requires extraordinary effort. They must wait for a dramatic turning point or a surge of inspiration before they can begin to shape their lives differently. The truth is the opposite. Change begins with the smallest actions, often so simple they seem almost insignificant. Yet, when practiced consistently, those small actions alter the way you think, the way you behave, and eventually the trajectory of your life. The power of starting small lies in its accessibility. Anyone can do it, regardless of circumstances. You may not be able to solve all your problems in one day, but you can take control of one small area of your life. Straightening the sheets, tucking in the corners, placing the pillows neatly. These tasks do not require wealth, talent, or extraordinary opportunity. What they require is commitment, and that commitment is within everyone's reach. This makes change less intimidating. Instead of being overwhelmed by the distance between where you are and where you want to be, you begin by focusing on what is right in front of you. There is also a psychological power in these small beginnings. Completing a simple task signals to your brain that progress is possible. That sense of progress sparks motivation, and motivation fuels further action. One disciplined decision creates momentum for the next. By making your bed, you have already proven to yourself that you are capable of structure and consistency. That proof becomes the foundation for larger decisions throughout the day. You might prepare a healthier meal, focus more intently on your work, or approach challenges with greater determination. All because you began the morning with a single intentional act. Starting small also develops resilience. Life is full of obstacles, and waiting for perfect conditions often means waiting forever. But when you train yourself to act on the small things, you cultivate a mindset that is not paralyzed by difficulty. You learn to look for the opportunities you can control, rather than being defeated by the ones you cannot. That resilience grows each time you repeat the habit. You begin to see that small victories, accumulated over time, create a strong foundation that carries you through bigger challenges. Perhaps most importantly, starting with small habits fosters identity. Each morning when you make your bed, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who values discipline, order, and consistency. Over time, that identity takes root and begins to shape how you live in other areas. Identity drives action, and the more you see yourself as someone who follows through, the more likely you are to carry that standard into larger goals. In this way, a simple habit becomes much more than it appears. It becomes the seed of transformation, the beginning of a life shaped not by waiting for big moments, but by choosing to master the small ones. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life, and it often begins with the smallest of actions. When you make your bed in the morning, you create a sense of forward motion before the day has even fully started. That motion is not about speed or intensity, but about direction. The hardest part of any task is the beginning, and by completing something simple right away, you push yourself past inertia. Instead of starting the day from a standstill, you started already moving, and that momentum has the ability to carry you into greater achievements. Think of a heavy wheel that takes effort to push it first. The initial movement feels slow, almost pointless, but with each push it becomes easier, and eventually the wheel spins on its own with little resistance. Habits work in the same way. The first action may seem small, but it requires the most effort. Once you have made your bed, however, you have already overcome the resistance of starting. That first success becomes energy for the next task, whether it is exercising, focusing on work, or having the discipline to make healthier choices throughout the day. You are no longer fighting against inertia. You are moving with momentum. Momentum also shapes your mindset. When you begin the day with completion and order, you set the tone for how you approach the rest of your responsibilities. You carry with you the quiet confidence of someone who has already succeeded once today. That confidence influences your decisions, your attitude, and even the way you interact with others. Instead of waiting for motivation to appear, you create it through action. Action breeds momentum, and momentum sustains motivation. In this way, you become less dependent on fleeting bursts of inspiration and more reliant on the steady rhythm of discipline. This principle applies not only to daily routines, but also to long-term goals. Large ambitions are rarely achieved in one step. They're reached through countless small actions that build on each other over time. The discipline of making your bed teaches you the value of those incremental steps. It reminds you that progress does not come from leaps, but from steady movement in the right direction. Each day's effort, no matter how small, adds to the momentum that eventually carries you toward the bigger vision you are working for. Momentum also provides resilience when setbacks occur. Life will inevitably bring interruptions and failures, but if you have built momentum through consistent habits, you are less likely to stop completely. Instead, you can slow down, regain your footing, and continue forward. A person with momentum is not easily derailed because they have already proven to themselves that progress is possible through repeated action. Then assurance keeps them moving even when circumstances try to pull them back. Making your bed may seem like an insignificant start, but it is that start which matters most. It is the first push that sets the wheel in motion, the small act that begins the chain of discipline and success. With each morning, you remind yourself that momentum is not given. It is created, and once created, it can carry you further than you ever imagined. Victory does not always come wrapped in applause, recognition, or grand achievement. More often, it comes in quiet moments that no one else notices. Moments when you choose discipline over neglect, persistence over laziness, and order over disorder. Making your bed each morning is one of those quiet victories. It may not change the world in that instant, but it changes you. It affirms that you are capable of starting something and bringing it to completion. It demonstrates that even in the simplest areas of life, you have the power to take control. And those small victories, repeated over time, accumulate into a mindset that seeks success, not just in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary as well. Every victory, no matter how small, strengthens your confidence. Each time you make your bed, you are reminded that progress is possible. You can accomplish something before the day has truly begun. That sense of accomplishment carries weight because it builds trust in yourself. You no longer need to rely solely on hope or motivation to get things done. You have proof that you can act and succeed. The more victories you accumulate, the more you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. That identity is powerful because it influences everything else you attempt. Confidence grows from action, and even small actions can be the foundation of unshakable belief. Small victories also create discipline. They teach you that success is not just about big moments of inspiration, but about consistency in the small choices you make each day. By committing to these simple tasks, you develop the ability to stay the course even when the task feels unimportant or unnoticed. That discipline, once learned, is not confined to making your bed. It extends into your work, your health, your relationships, and your goals. Discipline becomes part of your character, and character shapes destiny. These victories also build resilience. Life is filled with setbacks, and there will be days when major goals seem far out of reach. But if you have trained yourself to celebrate the small wins, you will always have a reason to keep going. Even when larger plans fall apart, you will have proof that you can succeed in the little things, and that proof becomes the fuel to rebuild and try again. A person who recognizes small victories never feels entirely defeated because they always have evidence of progress, however modest it may seem. Perhaps the greatest value of small victories is that they compound. Just as small failures, when ignored, can accumulate into bigger problems, small wins accumulate into greater achievements. One win leads to another, and over time they transform the way you live. Making your bed may appear insignificant on its own, but over weeks, months, and years, it contributes to a lifestyle of discipline, confidence, and resilience. Each quiet victory matters because together, they create momentum that shapes the course of your life. Great victories begin with small disciplines, like the simple act of making your bed, If you can master the little things, you can master anything. Discipline in the morning creates strength for the day and for life. The path to success doesn't start with big steps. It starts with a made bed. Make your bed, and you'll discover you can make a difference.